الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with the book Husnul Khuluq by Imam Sa'di rahimahullah. Jazakumullah khairan. And this is part of the topic about the ahkam or the rulings related to our homes and the subject of the halal and the haram and some of the rulings. We'll get into that inshallah ta'ala tomorrow if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will. But today inshallah ta'ala we'll try to finish this book of Husnul Khuluq, because this is the foundation of any subject related to homes. Because those who ought to receive the best of our manners are those who are closest to us. The more the people are closer to us, the more they should receive all kinds of goodness from us. And al-aqrabuna awla bil ma'ruf, those who are closer, they have more rights on matters of goodness to you more than those who are further away. And khayrukum khayrukum li ahli wa ana khayrukum li ahli, as the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, the best among you are the best to their families, and I'm the best to my family. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he mentioned as-sahib, sahibu bil jamb, that the closer the person is to you, even if you're traveling, the one that is closer to you has more rights on you than the one that is sitting further away from you. So that's why Husnul Khuluq, and continuing with what's mentioned yesterday without repeating all of what has been said, these are principles that were mentioned yesterday when it comes to the subject. It is ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a great ibadah that it takes a long time from one's life. As we heard before, as the Sheikh mentioned, people in our life, we spend time with people. And this time that we spend with them, either we are obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that relationship, or we are disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Husnul Khuluq or so, this is basically fulfilling the commands of Allah and following the way the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And this life is fursa, is an opportunity. Right? When they say seize the opportunity, this entire life is an opportunity. So you have to seize it. We should not waste our life. A person is given one chance in this world before he returned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as Mutarrif ibn Abdullah al-Shakhir, he said, with a certain incident, but he said that this life is marra wahida. Inna li nafsan wahida. I have only one nafs. فلا أغرر بها. I don't put it into not harm's way, but I don't give chances. I don't take chances with my nafs. Because when you take a chance, either you do good or not. You can do that with business, with things, mashallah, yes. And the rizq is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when it comes to deen, to the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't take chances. We have to make sure that we know what is haqq, what is truth, and then we are patiently applying that truth. By following the proper knowledge of this deen of Allah, especially at times of fitan when things are confusing and not clear to many, we have to return back to the sources of this deen, the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, the way it was at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the time of the early generations of Islam, and to be patient with it. So continuing inshallah ta'ala, and another reminder before we start, this is the night of Jumu'ah, where the night of the Jumu'ah, the day of Jumu'ah, blessed day and night, and one of the etiquettes to be observed is to frequently make salah on the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So every time definitely we hear the name of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, we have to say sallallahu alayhi wasallam alayhi salatu wasalam like this, and more frequently saying this, and it reaches the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam as he said alayhi salatu wasalam. We stopped at the sentence that he says after mentioning the asbab, or the means to achieve husnul khuluq and so on. He says وَمِنَ الْأَسْبَابِ, from these asbab, أَنْ يَتَأَمَّلْ, that a person reflect. And many of these types of qualities, it comes with reflection, comes with thinking, and then you decide for yourself. This is what Allah made unique for the human beings. We're not just like animals, just do physical actions and that's it. We have to think, we have to reflect, and if you have the content of reflection is based on ilm, the foundation is ilm, and then you reflect, because if there is ignorance, the reflection can be worse for the person. But when a person reflect and think, then he would make the right decision, and he would look at the end of things, and he would be patient with himself. So أن يتأمل with regards to the opposite, reflect upon the bad manners. هل يجلب له سوء الخلق إلا الأسف الدائم والهم الملازم والآثار القبيحة. Isn't the bad manners brings to the person nothing but continuous sorrow and continuous misery, and the outcome of it is something that is abhorred to oneself. Bad manners, just by itself, it sounds bad by itself. Nobody would like to have bad manners, and every single human being can relate to this. But we said, again, this matter is unique based on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, not just based on the urf or the norm of the people. So therefore, when a person reflects upon this, he wants to distance himself, disloyal himself, become innocent away from any bad manners as defined in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And when a person reflects like this, he would then take the means. And as we said, the dua, to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to perfect our manners, to seek the knowledge of it, to get to learn the ayat of the Quran, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, to rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because really at the end, then all things is all, belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open ways for the person. The more the heart is spacious for the Quran and the deen of Islam, the more the heart will be spacious for people, and the more the person will be able to contain people. And as it's also mentioned in the hadith, إنك لن تسعوا الناس بأموالكم ولكن فلتسعهم بأخلاقكم. أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام, or the author also from some of the Sahaba, that you won't be able to contain or to embrace the people with your money. You cannot do that. Basically embrace the people, contain the people, but you can do that with your khuluq, with your good manners. So to reflect upon these meanings and to read like the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, the biographies of the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, the Imam of this deen, the more we get to live with them, when we learn what's been preserved for us, we will be protected from being affected by the environment that we live in, because it's preserved for a reason, right? So we need to take the time in which we get to learn about their lives and so on. This is one of the things that maybe the ulama, when they give the durus and the lectures of knowledge, they don't necessarily give durus, extended durus about the biographies of the ulama and the imma and the sahaba and the tabi'een, because this is from the easy things for anybody to learn. And it's comes under sometimes the subject of the mulah, or the things that are delicate and things easy. Like you would find many of the ulama, they say they would have these types of books next to their bed before they sleep, they read it. The biographies of the imma, like, the books like Sir Alam al-Nubala and the like of it. Have something like this that you can't continuously read it. Not sure if many of it is translated, but it's something that softens the hearts. It gives that sense of belonging to this great ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, and not to be detached from them by constantly knowing them and reading about them. And this is unique to this ummah. There's no ummah on the face of earth that it preserved the life and the biographies and everything about its people like this ummah. Thousands and thousands of biographies of the imma, the ruwat al-ahadith, to preserve the deen, to preserve the sunnah. This is why the ulama, they did this, not for luxurious meanings, but to preserve the deen of Allah. Every narrator of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he would have his lifetime is mentioned, and when he was born and where, and when did he die, and where, and who met who, and some of their statements and some of their lives and things like this. So this is the point. And then after that he says, وَمِنَ الْأَسْبَابِ, also from the means, and we touched upon this yesterday, but it's one of the important ones. He says, رِيَاضَةُ النَّفْسِ وَتَمْرِينُهَا عَلَى هَذَا الْخُلُقِ. رِيَاضَةُ النَّفْسِ. Riyada is the same word that they use for sports and things like this. It's something to do with exercise. This is what people deal with sports. They exercise and they exercise till they reach a certain objective. It doesn't happen overnight. They put so much effort and so many different things that they do, And this is how human beings, they change. What's more important than this, and many of these things might be even including haram in it, but riyadatun nafs. And riyadatun nafs is a terminology, or the exercising of oneself. Some people, if it's correct is to say, hijack this terminology by explaining it according to their own philosophy or bid'ah innovations in the deen, like the ways of Sufism and things like this, where they think that I need to train myself, exercise myself, and they more concerned about how they feel, or a dhawq, or the taste of things. So they exert themselves in a way that it's other than the way the Prophet ﷺ. And the shaitan let them feel all kinds of good feelings, and they think that they really worked on themselves. No, to work on yourself, we have to work on ourselves according to the way of the Prophet ﷺ. We have a clear set example. Why should we do something else without twisting evidences and so on? So riyadatun nafs is such a crucial thing, and it's an exercise that we do to our hearts and our nafs and our akhlaq. And the exercise meaning what? That if you're trying to do something physically and you're not able to do it, right? Anything, any sports, anything. The first time you would fail, but you take yourself in a gradual way. You need someone of an expertise to train you, because he knows what you do now than what would lead to what later. So you have to be patient with yourself, and you don't expect results immediately, but you have the route is very clear. And if you fail, you bring yourself back again. And this is how it is with all good manners, whether it's to be generous, whether it's to be kind, with all the different things. وتمرينها على هذا الخلق وتوطينها على كل سبب, and to make sure that it's diligent upon every mean to attain this good manners that you get to know from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. فيوطنها, so this is clear, right? You have to exercise yourself, and this is also based on ilm, based on knowledge. And that's why the whole book is about general terms, but its foundation to what comes afterwards. Then he says something very important. فيوطنها على معارضات الأقوال وأنه لا بد من مخالفتهم في العلوم والإرادات. توطين النفس is that either the word watan, even it's like used for your country, your home, the place of residency, that you stay there and you don't leave. So you need to make yourself in such a stable state that you're always able to deal with the oppositions, whether it's in speech or actions, what would oppose you to be upon good manners, and that you have to go against these things that opposes you. And again, this is all based on ilm. You know that this is the haqq, and those who are opposing you are upon al-batil, in this, upon falsehood. So you have to prepare yourself that you're going to go through a struggle, whether it's yourself, whether it's a loved one, whether it's someone else that would try to take you away from good manners to be upon bad manners. And he says, وَلَبُدَّ أَيْضًا, and there has to be, this is the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you know that this is the way of Allah, then you prepare yourself. What is this? وَلَبُدَّ أَيْضًا مِنْ أَذِيَّةٍ قَوْلِيَّةٍ أَوْ فِعْلٍ. You have to face harm, whether it's by speech or actions. This is how life is. This is how this life is a test. So when you know that you're going to be harmed with one's statement, with one's actions, as a result of you trying to have good manners, or without even trying, this is how life is. It's test. People are tested to one another. Then فَلْيَتَوَطَّنْ عَلَى تَحَمُّلِ الْأَذَى. Then you have to be upon and stay upon that patience to bear these types of harms and to be patient with it. And that you know for sure and have certainty أن الأذى القولي لا يضر إلا من قاله. That when someone says something bad about you or to you, it only harms him or her. It harms the one that said it. It doesn't harm you. Right? And this is a very clear, obvious thing for someone that when he have reason in things. If someone say a bad thing about you, who's the one that is harmed? The one that said it. The one that receives it, he can even benefit from it, because we're all weak and deficient, and there may be some truth in it. And usually the enemies, your enemies, they don't fabricate something from, if they can, they would do it. But they might see a weakness and they exaggerate it. So maybe I have the roots of it. Maybe this is true. So I would work on myself to be away from what they say about me that is being evil. And then you benefit, And who's the one that is harmed is the one that says it. But this, you have to, the word here, which is very precise, توطين النفس. This is part of the exercise. You have to make yourself settled on this way, that you would hear things that you don't like, that people would say things to you that is not pleasant. So if you wait till they say it, it's too late, because you might react in a negative way. Before that, you have to make yourself settled that you will hear things. Things will happen to you, so you prepare yourself to be patient. إنما الصبر عند الصدمة الأولى. Patience is from the same strike of the calamity, and the same thing as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا تبلون في أموالكم وأنفسكم ولا تسمعن من الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم ومن الذين أشركوا أذى كثيرا وإن تصبروا وتتقوا فإن ذلك من عزم الأمور. That you will be tested, you will be in the future. Definitely you will be tested with regards to your wealth and yourself. And you will hear from the people of the book and those who associated partners with you, you would hear from them great harm. So this is going to be the case. This is the way of Allah. Then what's the solution? وَإِن تَصْبِرُوا وَتَتَّقُوا. If you're patient and have the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is from the determined, this is the matters that requires determination. فَإِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. It's a matter that requires determination and strength to be patient, to have the taqwa of Allah facing something like this, especially when you have the ability to revenge, when you have the ability to get even with someone like this, and then you choose to be patient and to fear Allah. And again, as we said, patience, it doesn't mean always that you're going to pardon. Sometimes you would seek justice, but this is based on ilm. And if a person doesn't have the ilm, then he should ask the people of knowledge. Like you ask a person of knowledge of fatwa, what do I do with that person in my life that keeps on bothering me by this or that? And you explain the whole situation and then hear from the alim what he would say, things like this. So, tawteen al-nafs, preparing oneself, keeping oneself steady upon this before things happen. And then he says, وَإِنَّ مِنَ الْحَزْمِ وَالْقُوَّةِ أن يكون الإنسان بحيث لا يتأثر بكلام يقصد به إخفاضه وإغضابه. And al-hazm, from the strength of a person, that you are a strong person, is that when a human being is not affected by the kalam, by the speech of someone, that he intend by the speech to put you down or to make you angry. Some people, they play psychological affairs against one another. You don't know, right? We have to have good expectations of everyone. But what if someone, he wants to abuse you, so he knows how to get you. He wants you to get angry so that you become foolish or so. So you have to again prepare yourself that your strength is that you don't get affected by the things that would makes you angry or make you humiliated. Never be humiliated. Don't let anyone say something to you that you become humiliated or look bad or this or that. This is, and some people, they will try to do this. So when you prepare yourself, that the one that is harmed by that is the one that says it. And for you to train yourself to be strong. And that also prevents you from harming yourself. Some people, they become miserable for no reason because someone said this or said that. And then they even get physically ill because of these types of things. To have that mental strength is such an important one. And it's not that you don't care about people, but it's because you want to have good manners when dealing with other human beings and so on. So this is part of having al-hazm, or being strong and being precise and so on. بل يعلم أنه إذا غضب أو تأثر فقد أعان المتكلم على نفسه. That if then you have to know that if you get angry then as a result of this, or you get affected, then you had helped the one that is talking, you helped him to get away through you. You made him victorious basically. And this is exactly what he wants. وإلا لم يبالي به, otherwise he doesn't care about this. And if he doesn't care too much in overlooking, and that's why they say that 9/10 of good manners is in one word, which is at-taghaful. At-taghaful is to overlook. Don't be very critical to every word that is being said and every incident that happens. At-taghaful, overlooking what people would say about you, overlook of many other things that you would see, but you still enjoin good and forbid evil and bring all what is best, not to be negative and not to do anything, but rather to do things, but never let things to affect you in a negative way that would make you have bad manners. And a person with bad manners might lose his case even though he has justice is on his side. But because of his attitude, because of his way, he loses. In many cases, you would find the person is upon the haqq, upon the truth. But the way that he presents himself, he caused harm even to his da'wah, to his way. And as the Prophet ﷺ said to some of his companions, when he addressed Mu'adh radiallahu anhu, but they learned immediately. He said, "Inna minkum munafirin." Some of you are repellent. They repel people away, even though they are upon the haqq. But maybe their ways, they did not exercise certain things on themselves, and they cause people to repel and run away from them. So that also something, especially when people are watching everyone to see whether they, we can be either calling people with your actions to the deen of Allah, or someone might see the attitude of a Muslim and he would never think about the deen of Islam, wrongfully of course, but this is what the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and we have to pay attention to that. And then he says, talking about when it comes to your enemy, he wants to hurt your heart. لأن جل مقصد عدوه إلى قلبه. He wants to hurt your heart. Some people are to that level of evil, and to bring all kinds of gham and ham, concerns and misery and fear to your heart. So فكما يسعى بدفع ما يريد إلى ما ظاهره فليسعى بدفع ما يريد إلى ما باطنه بترك الاهتمام به. The same way that you take the means to protect yourself from physically being harmed. If someone wants to come and may Allah protect everyone, wants to punch you, right? What do? You don't say, "What can I do?" Just do it. And that's how things are. You have to protect yourself, right? The least that you would remove yourself away from being hit. He's saying the same way you should push away what hurts your inside, what hurts your heart. By what? بِتَرْكِ الْإِهْتِمَامِ بِهِ. By staying away from being concerned about it. This is how you protect your heart from your enemies. Overlook. Don't care about it. Is it easy? It's not easy. It needs exercise. So if it affects you one time, focus on this. Be busy. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. And the more you work on yourself, the more that you would overlook it. Otherwise, if even the people of knowledge, and so if they are paying attention to every single thing that people say about them, they would leave all of the work of the deen that they do, and then they have to respond to this and respond to that. If it's a matter of goodness and matters of deen, yes, we have to take things for the benefit, yes. But just things to, words of distraction and things like this, it's a very beautiful statement here. The issue of the physical harm, you push it away from yourself. The same way you have to push away the inward harm by overlooking and exercising this. Some people might think that I overlook it with bad manners. No, with good manners, because you want to have good manners, not overlook it. I don't care about you. If even a person can say it in such a bad way. No, it's that you ignore it with your heart so that you would have good manners. So is it clear? This is something that we should do something to remember it, because we need it constantly, and we need to exercise. This is the training for everyday training that we need to observe. Then he says, وَمَا أَنْفَعُ فِي هَذَا الْمَقَامِ وَغَيْرِهِ. And one of the very benefiting things in this context of things, أن يجعل الإنسان نصب عينه وجل مقصده الإبقاء على قلبه من المشوشات والواردات المؤلمة. So for the person, for the human being, to make himself so focused. نصب عينيه, that means when you focused with something that you're looking, you're not distracted to look left and right. You're focused on what you need to be upon, and all of your objective is what? Is to keep your heart away from the distractions and al-waridat, the things that comes to your heart that hurts it. You need to be focused on this, to push away these things, to protect your heart. We need to be focused on protecting our hearts from shubuhat, from doubtful matters, from all of the kufr and the shirk that people would say left and right, and we expose ourselves to it. How can we keep our hearts then to be healthy? And this is one of the amazing things in this life of fitan that we're in. The more that we see how things are, many people, they would say or I heard this person said this, I heard a person saying that. Every single word of kufr, every single word of evil, you would find many people are exposed to it. And the people of evil, they know that very well. So this is an industry. And they work and they spend money so much because they want your heart. They want to hurt your heart. They want to affect you, make you crazy, right? So what should a Muslim do? He should listen to everything and watch everything and thinks that, oh, I'm strong, I know exactly what people do. No, we're much weaker than that. And they're much stronger than you because you opened your heart for them. So you have to stay away from this. You have to block these things away. And when it comes to protecting your aqidah, protecting your deen, and these fitan, to stay away from it and so on. And here also with regard to good manners is to stay away from the things that give you pain. These types of things. So this is, and when he put it together, and this is the experience and the ilm, that we need to, really practice these words of wisdom. Al-ibqa ala qalbi. This heart is a amana. This heart is a trust that we need to keep it pure, not contaminated. And don't think of yourself that you know and you have strength and you have power. This is arrogance. We don't know anything. We need strength from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you fulfill the commands of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy for you. But when we think, no, I'm safe, I'm strong, I'm able to watch all of these things and hear all these things, and this is all, if someone is successful, those who said that before, they failed. And it's the path of failures. He says, وَأَنْ يَحْفَظَ رَاحَةَ قَلْبِهِ بِكُلِّ مَا يُفْضِي مِنَ الرَّاحَةِ مِنْ تَحْصِيلِ أَسْبَابِ مُرِيحَ الْقَلْبِ. And so to push away these harmful things and to protect the comfort of your heart with all what it takes to comfort your heart, by taking all of the means to give you that comfort. We need to get why this is important, to be comfortable in your heart, because without having a comfortable heart, you won't have good manners, because you're under stress or you're under whatever, all kinds of contamination to the heart. So, and that's why it leads to something else. So to have this comfort heart is by pushing away all of these things that harms it, and by bringing all the things that is pleasant, like the Quran, like the beautiful things, like the exercising, like being patient with one another. وَدَفْعُ كُلُّ مُعَارِضٍ لَهَا, and to push away anything that opposes this. فَإِنَّ رَاحَةَ الْقَلْبِ أَصْلُ طِيبِ الْعَيْشِ فِي هَذِهِ الدَّارِ. This is also a milestone or a principle in our life. رَاحَةُ الْقَلْبِ. The comfort of your heart is the foundation for every goodly or good living in this life. Any good living in this life, the roots of it, the foundation of it, is the comfort of the heart. And the opposite is true. If there is no comfort to the heart, nothing will give you comfort. Wealth, health, all of these things would be of no benefit whatsoever if the heart is not comfortable. And many people, they're more concerned about their physical. They think that the physical things will bring the comfort to the heart. And they always fail. They intoxicate themselves, but they would never be comfortable unless they work on their hearts to give the comfort to the heart. And this is how to do it, pushing away things and bringing in things. And this is all based on wahy from Allah. The last set of statements here, he says, after we're following, right, we should have what's mentioned. We take this as grounds for what's going to be mentioned now, right? So everything is clear. I'm building on this by saying, فلو كان الإنسان بكل نعيم وتوفرت لديه أسباب الراحة. If a person has all kinds of delight and all of the means of comfort is there for him, but وقلبه في قلق وحرج, but his heart is in distress and confusion and unease, he does not go out from هم لا يخرج من هم إلا وقع في آخر. He does not go out from a distress unless he fall into another one. ولا يفرح بموجود أو محبوب, and he's not rejoicing or happy with what he has, or he's not happy with a loved one that he has. He has all kinds of things that he's not happy with it. He's miserable because he lost something, right? And this is whether it's young or old. He has health and wealth and the food of the day and the air to breathe, but he's so miserable because of something that he heard or because he didn't get something that he sought to help to attain physical matters. And this is all the life of misery, really, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, the one that is a slave to the dinar and the dirham. If you enslave yourself to the money and the materialistic things, this is what becomes the life of these people. تعس عبد الدرهم تعس عبد الدينار تعس عبد القطيفة تعس وانتكس وإذا شيك فلن تقش. It's amazing that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned details. He is miserable, the slave of the dinar, the money. And he is miserable, the abd of a dirham or dinar, whether it's big amount of money, small amount of money. تعس عبد القطيفة. Qatifa is a special type of cloth. Al-Khamila is another special of cloth. That means people can be enslaved to different types of wealth. Doesn't have to be all cash money. It can be something else, anything that has value. Ta'isa wa antakas, he's miserable and he's inverted like this. He's not upright. Wa idha shika falan tuqish, if he's poked with the smallest pain, like a thorn or something like this, it's either a dua from the Prophet ﷺ, may Allah do not take it away from him, or it's a statement stating the fact that he would never be healed. The smallest pain gives him so much pain. In أعطي رضي وإن لم يعط سخط. What's the sign of that person? If he's given from this dunya, he's pleased, he's happy. If he's not given, he is complaining and miserable and so on. So when someone has all kinds of delight and means and his heart is like this, you know, فإنه حتى الآن لم يصل إلى المقصود. That means he did not reach to his objective yet. Because the objective is the heart, not the physical thing. What's the objective? الذي يسعى له أهل العقول الرقية. The objective that the people of pleasant or decent or elevated reason, they want to reach. Anyone with a sound mind, this is what they really seek, and not only the materialistic things. فإنهم يسعون أولا, because the people of proper reason, they seek first لراحة قلوبهم وطمأنينتهم, to comfort their hearts first. This is the first thing to be sought. By what? بالإنابة إلى الله. To return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all of their affairs. مهماتهم وملماتهم, their important things, their necessities, all of their affairs. All of their affairs, they return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking guidance from Allah and so on, and by being obedient to Allah. وَيُتَمِّمُونَ ذَلك. So by الإنابة إلى Allah, to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with all what that means, fulfilling the obligations, applying the deen, repenting to Allah, getting to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. And then they perfect this, وَيُتَمِّمُونَ ذَلِكَ بِالْحِلْمِ. They perfect this with forbearance, وَحُسْنُ الْخُلُقِ, and good manners, وَحِفْظُ قُلُوبِهِمْ, and again to guard their hearts from anything that would contaminate the heart or contaminate their goodly life. We're supposed to live a goodly life. This is what every human being should be upon, goodly life. We bring it to ourselves. The miserable life, we bring it to ourselves. It is not the circumstances. It's not the time that we live in. It's not that the person is poor or he doesn't have a job or because of the people or because of the community. All of these things has nothing to do with the goodly life that you ought to have. Because all of these things are the qadr of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it in such a way that you don't have control over. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it in the absolute sense, مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبًا. Whoever do righteous good deeds from a male or a female and he's a believer, we will give him definitely a goodly life. So the goodly life is attained no matter what the circumstances that a person has. So therefore we are to be blamed and not someone else. And one of the reason why, because people don't seek the comfort of the heart first. And this is what he says here. So to push away what contaminate the heart, that would take away the goodly life. And وَنَعِيمِهِمُ الْعَاجِلُ وَالْآجِلُ. There's a na'im, there's a delight, there's a pleasant life in this one and in the hereafter. It doesn't have to be a miserable one in this life and a good one in the hereafter. Right? It can be both good. And that's why the dua رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. And the goodly life in this life is not, again, the physical aspects of things. It's the goodness in the heart and the comfort of the heart. that requires exercise after exercise. And since the heart is owned by Allah, so the only way, to attain this is by Allah. وَلَا يُنَالُ مَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ إِلَّا بِطَاعَتِهِ. Only to attain anything with Allah, from Allah, is by the obedience to Allah. So if a person, the more he's obedient to Allah, the more that he would get this comfort in his heart. Does that mean that he won't be tested or facing difficulties in his life? Nobody said that. And the Prophet ﷺ, no one was like him when it comes to the trials and tests and stresses and all of these things. But he had the best life, alayhi salatu wasalam, and the most pleasant one. Few weeks back, and I don't like to mention these personal things, but few weeks back I was in a car with a driver. The driver started talking to me. He saw me that has a back home beard, so that means he has to talk to me with things that he's, complaining about things, and he's having difficult life and things like that. And I felt bad for the person, and complaining all kinds of debt and things like this, just away from the deen, subhanAllah. So he's having a miserable life, as he explains. But then he said, but you know what? I see people with beard and they're religious and so on, but they have worse life than me. They're poor and they have no money. He made it as like, if they're righteous, why they're not wealthy? This is how he's seeing it. Their life is miserable. They're poor. They don't have money. They're this and that. So I asked him, do you know any of them? He says, I know, yes, some of them. He said, did you ask them if they're happy or not, if they are truly righteous ones? Then he kind of returned back to himself. He says, yes, they seem to be happy, right? But he doesn't understand that. He doesn't relate to this happiness. He says they're happy, they're not complaining, right? And they're in a worse situation than me, but I don't want this life. In a sense that he thinks he decided that the godly life is the one that has so much. He needs to have money and this and that. And that's what he's making the decision for himself. And this is ignorance. This is lack of knowledge. Because leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're abd to Allah. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded you to do something, know for sure that the outcome of it is going to be good for you if you fulfill the commands of Allah. So, and then he said after that, so the last statement, فَإِنَّ رَاحَةَ الْقَلْبِ أَصْلُ كُلِّ طِيبِ عَيْشٍ. And then we said the issue of the means of, if you have still in this in your heart, that means you did not reach your objective yet. Because the people of good reason and the believers, they seek the comfort of their heart first by returning to Allah, and they perfect that with al-hilm, with forbearance and good manners, and protecting their hearts. And this is that protects them to make them have the goodly life. فَتَأَمَّلْ فِي بَعْضِ قِصَصِ الْأَخْيَارِ, as we mentioned. Then reflect upon some of the stories of the righteous ones from our past, this great past that no nation has the like of it. وَمَا هُمْ عَلَيْهِ مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الطَّيِّبَةِ, how the goodly life that they had. سواء كانوا في فقر أو في غنى, whether they were poor or rich. Look at the companions of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, the tabi'een, the early generations of Islam. أو شدة أو رخاء, or tightness or ease. وحيث تنقلت بهم الأحوال, and their life took them in all kinds of situations that they faced. But you would find فإنك تجد الواحد منهم أبسط الناس خلقا وأرواحهم نفسا وأقرهم عينا. You would find each one of them is one of the most spacious when it comes to his manners, and his nafs is so pleasant and they're so comfort. بل تجد من هو في يسارة منهم وفقر, whoever is at ease or poor, راضيا, he's pleased, content, قانعا غير متسخط, he's not complaining and things like this, complaining about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the creation of Allah. And this is the fadl, this is the bounty of Allah. He gives it to whoever He wills. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. This is the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gives it to whoever He wills. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner of the greatest bounty. So we didn't give these things its rights, but these are really its foundations, its principles. And I hope that whether we write it down or make sure that we take notes of what has been mentioned, because this is really the gist of all of the goodly life that a person wants to be upon, and to be patient. To end this, inshallah ta'ala, with the Imam Sa'di also, rahimahullah, he has a book, and I think it's translated, that he mentioned in it 21 reasons or 21 means to attain goodly life. Right? But just to mention the titles of the 21 points here, because this is also something that we need to be upon for the person to have goodly life based on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So we'll say some now, and then after Isha we continue, inshallah ta'ala. The first one, he says, Al-Iman wal-Amal al-Salih. Al-Iman, the faith, and the righteous good deeds. And we should write these 21 points, inshallah ta'ala. So the first one, Al-Iman wal-Amal al-Salih, is the ayah we heard, Man amila salihan min dhakarin aw untha wa huwa mu'min. Whoever do righteous good deeds, whether it's male or female, and he's a believer, فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبًا. Therefore, the lam tawqid and lam qasam, we by Allah for surely, لَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ, and then the noon of the tawqid, more than one way to stress the meaning that he would be given a goodly life. And وَلَنَجِزِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْرَهُمْ بِأَحْسَنِ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ, and we will give them their rewards with the best of what they used to do, mean the rewards in the hereafter. So al-iman wal-amal al-salih, this is the foundation of it, with all of the different evidences in this. Number two, to remove away the harm and so on and the distresses and to have a good life. Al-ihsanu il-khalq, to do good to people. And that's what Husnul Khuluq comes in place. To extend your benefit to others with speech and actions. Have the concern towards people that you want to make them feel pleasant by a word that you say, by smiling to their faces, by giving them from your money, by helping with whatever means that a person has, with all kinds of ma'ruf. And we have this in our deen. And those who deserve the most of that are the closest to us. So whether it's a wife and children, or a husband, or relatives, or neighbors, and then the circle gets on bigger and bigger, and the entire ummah, and this ummah is one ummah. So if there is a flood, for example, in Pakistan, then we help. If there is a misery in this place, we help. And the least that a person can do is to make dua. And this, the dua is, you're extending your benefit to others. You're doing good to others when you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and with all means that a person has. So this is one of the essential ways to push away from yourself harm when you do benefit to others. لا خير في كثير من نجواهم إلا من أمر بصدقة أو معروف أو إصلاح بين الناس ومن يفعل ذلك ابتغاء مرضات الله فسوف نؤتيه أجرا عظيما. There's no goodness in most of what people speak to one another, except if it was sadaqah, charity, or ma'ruf, matter of goodness, or rectifying a dispute, bringing people from having disputes to have peace. This is all things that if a person seek the rewards from Allah, he will be given a great reward from Allah by seeking the rewards from Allah. So al-ihsan il-khalq, and that's also knowledge that we need to learn. Number three, to be busy, as he says, al-ishtighalu bi'amalin min al-a'mal, to be busy with something, with actions, whether it's benefiting knowledge or acts of obedience to Allah, ibadah or so, or worldly matters that is benefiting for yourself and for others. So when the ayat of the Quran was revealed about sadaqah, some of the Sahaba that didn't have money, to apply this ayah, they went to work. And as the hadith, they would go, they would have something to do, they would carry things for people just to get money so that they can give charity. Which is the second point, al-ihsan il-khalq. So al-ihsan il-khalq, to be kind to people. A person would say, well, I don't have money to give them. Work so that you can make money and to give to people. You get the second point and the third one. You make yourself busy. Because when a person is not busy, then all kinds of miseries comes in place. But busy in a good way, not busy that makes a person ruin other rights in his life. This life is not, when we say busy, it doesn't mean that a person works 16 hours a day. This is not busy. This is ruining one's life. Because other rights will not be observed. But always being busy, whether it's seeking provisions, and then after that being taking the time with one's family, teaching one's family, the rights of the family, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking knowledge. And one of the great means to protect oneself from all kinds of miseries is to seek knowledge, to constantly seek knowledge of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this issue of being busy, al-ishtighal, to be busy with any matters, whether it's ilm or amal. Number four, we'll say them at the end, inshallah. So we have three now. Number four, he says, اجتماع الفكر كله على الاهتمام بعمل اليوم الحاضر, to get your own fikr and thinking and focus on the deeds of the day that you are in today. اجتماع الفكر أو اجتماع الفكر كله على الاهتمام بعمل اليوم الحاضر. الاجتماع is you bring things together, right? Focus on today. And it doesn't mean that you don't think of what's going to be in the future, but don't think too much of the future, because this is one of the distresses, means that a person brings the stress to himself. Focus on today and fulfill what the rights of the day. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it good for you in the future. But also, and stay away from thinking too much about the future, and don't grieve too much about the past. So we are in between the past and the future. And this is one of the means that people become miserable in this life. They're not living the moment that they're in. They're living either in the past or in the future. They're sad because something happened in the past where they cannot bring it back and fix it. They're so much stressed of what's going to happen in the future, and they forget the moment that they're in. They waste it. They waste it with thinking and reflect in this. And it's not reflecting or anything. It's just waste. And it brings the pain that we mentioned before. This is one of the ways to bring miseries to the heart. But rather rely upon Allah. Ask Allah for forgiveness. Make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Follow the way of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam when it comes to matters of the past and the future. And the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he used to make or seek refuge in Allah from al-ham wal-hazan. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal-hazan. Al-ham is for the things that's coming, and al-hazan is the things that passed. So the Prophet ﷺ would seek refuge in Allah from what makes you sad from the past and what makes you concerned of what the future is. The future, you don't own it. Yes, you take the means and everything. Yes, there's nothing wrong with planning and so on, but you don't own it. So leave it to Allah, and that requires exercise. And the past is already done, and you repent to Allah, you fix it, you get yourself busy, and so on. So to focus on the day that the person is in. احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله ولا تعجز. Be eager to do what is benefiting for yourself. Seek help from Allah. Do not be having this inability that I'm not able to do it, I'm not good in doing this, and until the end of the hadith. And to seek help from Allah. Number 5, al-iktharu min dhikrillah. To frequently make dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To make dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not just once in a while. Al-ikthar, to say it in abundance, to make lots of dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this by itself is the mean to give that pleasant life. And the dhikr of Allah with the heart and the tongue. أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, indeed, by the dhikr of Allah, the hearts are comfortable. And if it's not comfortable yet, keep on making dhikr. Keep on making dhikr. You would reach that comfort. When you start reading Quran, the daily Quran, the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you would find all kinds of distractions. Stay away from it. You know, if it's half an hour that you can read Quran, if it's 45, whatever time that you would give, seclude yourself completely and make sure that you finish the portion, even if it's a small portion of the Quran, but the continuity of it, it's something that would have its effect. And the 5 daily salah, the adhkar after the salawat, the morning and the evening adhkar, and not to be distracted when we say these types of things before going to sleep, and to take the time out to say these things and more. The more the person make dhikr, the more that he will have this pleasantness in his heart. So this is number 5. As you see, each subject is a chapter of knowledge. And it's not just we get to know it and that's it. No, we have to talk about it all the time, because we need to know the dhikr of Allah. We need to learn the adhkar. And I think there's a ongoing durus about the adhkar and the learning of it. It brings the entire deen in your life, the tawheed of Allah, because you get to know the meanings of it and all kinds of blessings. Number 6, التحدث بنعم الله الظاهرة والباطنة. To always speak about the favors of Allah, the physical ones and the non-physical ones, or the outward ones and the inward ones. Knowing the favors of Allah, acknowledging the favors of Allah, and talking about the favors of Allah pushes away misery and distresses and all these types of things. And it makes it easy for the person to be grateful to Allah, which is the highest levels of goodness. This is the purpose of our life. والله أخرجكم من بطون أمهاتكم لا تعلمون شيئا وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة لعلكم تشكرون. Allah brought you out from the wombs of your mothers. You do not know anything, and He gave you the hearing and the sight and the hearts لعلكم تشكرون, so that you are grateful to Allah. So all of what's mentioned about the bad manners and the miseries is because of the ungratefulness to Allah. And a person, when he's sad and miserable, people will say you need to be grateful to Allah. They say, I'm grateful to Allah. No, well, we need to accuse ourselves. We're not too grateful to, وَقَلِيلٌ مِنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. So we need to be grateful to Allah. One of the ways of which, speak out when a person not feeling well. Talk about the favors of Allah. Count the favors of Allah. When we mentioned that before, sit with your family and let's each one talk about a favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He bestowed upon us. You would find endless numbers of things. And you would even open the eyes of others to really acknowledge the favors of Allah. Because if we, one simple example, as we always repeat that, is every breath is a favor of Allah. Don't say the fact that we're breathing. No, favor of Allah. Favor of Allah. It's favors of Allah every breath you take. And that's only one favor of Allah. And then the other favors of Allah. So it's an endless subject. وَإِن تَعُدُّ نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If you count the favors of Allah, you would never attain it. He gave you what you ask for and what you don't ask for. And imagine, as Ibn Qudama rahimahullah, he said, imagine that you have to ask for the breath. You have to ask for it first for you to get it. It's given without a person asking for it. And many other things. So, talking about the favors of Allah. And when a person is afflicted by something or pain or so, it says not to overlook the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to be patient. And if a person is patient, that's a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah had made it easy for the person to be patient and so on. Number 7, to follow the instructions of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. استعمال ما أرشد إليه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. في الحديث, there's a hadith about this. And this is an example that we need to follow the instructions of the Prophet ﷺ and to put aside what we think and our opinions and our solutions. He said ﷺ, انظروا إلى من هو أسفل منكم ولا تنظروا إلى من هو فوقكم فإنه أجدر ألا تزدروا نعمة الله عليكم. This hadith is in Bukhari and Muslim. That means look, انظروا, to those who are less than you, those who are lower than you. Not in deen, in dunya, in matters of dunya. Look at those who are lower than you. And don't look at those who are above you. Why? Because it's more than likely for you, which فَإِنَّهُ أَجْدَرُ أَلَّا تَزْدَرُ, so that you don't undermine or belittle the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you. But what people do, they do the opposite. Always they look at those who are above them. And they're always called, and they study that in school and colleges and everything, and motivating speakers and all of this to let people look at those who are above them. Look at the richest man in the world. Look at this, look at that. This is how they made their fortune. And people become miserable. They're not motivated to do what is good. They become miserable in life. But rather look at those who are less than you. And take the means. Nobody is to say don't take the means. Take the physical means, but put it in the right perspective. But when it comes to matters of deen, look at those who are above you. So that a person, don't look at those who are less than you in deen. Don't say, Alhamdulillah, I'm better than many people in this. No, look at the Prophet, ﷺ, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the ulama of this ummah. And also look at those who are less than you in matters of dunya, so that you are grateful to Allah. Go visit the graves and see how these people had been deprived of life, and we're all going that direction. So, you are in a better situation than them, so that you can repent to Allah. They wish they can do that, but you see, for example, those who die and depart from this life. And no matter how much a person lives, even the queen, she dies. And she lived for so long. Death is something that everybody has to face. And for a person lived for 100 years, they would see that when they die as if it was an hour. It's a lesson. It's record, right? But it ends at the end. So why so much giving, so much misery over this life? when everybody would leave it. So it's all lessons. Everything that happens around us is a lesson, and everybody will die. So, and look, a person, why we go visit the sick? One of the things is to ourselves to benefit from it. And this is one of the ways of the Prophet ﷺ is to visit to those who are sick, benefiting those who are sick, and benefiting oneself when we see this, and that affects our hearts. Visiting the graves, visiting those who are sick, and having this is an instruction from the Prophet ﷺ, so that we are grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that goes with always reflecting upon the favors of Allah. You know, when you see someone sick, for example, what do you say to yourself? You're gonna have a fear that, what if I have the same thing? So you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the cure of the one that is sick. You make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect you from harm. You become grateful to Allah that you have what people are deprived from, and so on. Should we stop at 40? Because then and make sunnah. Take one more and then we continue after Isha, inshallah. Number 8. But I want to finish the 21, inshallah, today. السعي في إزالة الأسباب الجالبة الهموم. We talked about that in the previous book. To take the means to remove the means that brings sadness and misery and so on. So, and that requires knowledge. How to remove, I'm not feeling happy, I'm not feeling sad. What are the things to do to remove this? What is mentioned before, but maybe there's something specific here. Maybe there's something small that can be fixed and we get over it. And to bring what the means of that brings happiness and so on. By forgetting again what happened, by overlooking, by being busy, you know, and thinking about things that we have no capacity is all nonsense and things like this. So again, to think of these means. There's a dua that is one of the very benefiting things, which is number 9, that also the Prophet ﷺ used to make this dua. And this is a beautiful dua, and this is reported by Imam Muslim. Allahumma aslih li dini alladhi huwa ismatu amri. And you would find this comprehensiveness in the dua of the Prophet ﷺ. Who Allah aslih, that means rectify, make it perfect and upright. Dini, my religion, which is ismatu amri. The matter that I need to hold fast to, the most important thing is the deen. If the deen is not perfect, nothing else matters. The deen is the most important thing. So he may start with the deen. Oh Allah, rectify, make my deen upright and make me righteous upon the deen. Which is, but you have to be truthful. الذي هو عصمة أمري. This is what all of my affairs is upon this. This is what I need to hold fast to first. وأصلح لي دنياي التي فيها معاشي. See how things are put in the right perspective when you get to know the dua of the Prophet ﷺ. And aslih, rectify, make my dunya perfect for me. This dunya, this life that I'm in, التي فيها معاشي, that I'm living in it. It is not عصمة أمري. The dunya is not my عصمة, is not the thing that I need to hold fast to, the most important thing. It's only the ma'ash. We're living in it, so we don't want to live in a miserable life. So we have to go through this dunya. So Allah make the goodly matters of this dunya that it's ma'ashi. وَأَصْلِحْ لِي آخِرَةِ الَّتِي إِلَيْهَا مَعَادِي. And rectify and make good my akhirah, the hereafter, that which in it is my resurrection. وَاجْعَلْ الْحَيَاةَ زِيَادَةً لِي فِي كُلِّ خَيْرٍ. And make this life ziyada, increasing in all matters of goodness. وَالْمَوْتَ رَاحَةً لِي مِنْ كُلِّ شَرٍ. And make death the comfort for me from every evil. So perfect dua that brings the person happiness in this life and in the hereafter. You won't find like it in other than the words of the Prophet ﷺ. So this is a dua. Allahumma aslih li dini alladhi huwa ismatu amri, wa aslih li dunyaya allati fiha ma'ashi, wa aslih li akhirati allati fiha ma'adi, waj'al hayata ziyadatan li fi kulli khair, wal mawta rahatan li min kulli shar. And there's nothing wrong with taking the time to learn these types of hadith. And another dua, Allahumma rahmatuka arju, Allahumma rahmataka arju, fala takilni ila nafsi tarfat ayn wa aslih li sha'ni kulla la ilaha illa ant. And this is also part of the morning adhkar. Ya hayyu ya qayyum bi rahmatika astaghith aslih li sha'ni kulla wa la takilni ila nafsi tarfat ayn. One time in the morning, one time in the evening. Ya hayyu ya qayyum, 2 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bi rahmatika astaghith, by your mercy I seek. Al-Ghawth is that you seek not just any help, the help of a drowning person, the help that if you don't help me, I'm not helped. أصلح لي شأني كله, rectify, make upright all of my affairs, all of it. ولا تكلني, do not make me rely upon myself for a blink of an eye. Do not leave me to myself. Because if you leave me to myself, you'll collapse. Right? You don't want to be left to yourself. You want the help from Allah, relying upon Allah. That's why these miseries and the sadness, when people turned away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the worship of Allah, then they are left to themselves. And when they're left to themselves, their selves is full of weakness and evil and so on. So the believers, they seek the strength from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by relying upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we'll stop here for now, inshallah ta'ala. And after Salatul Isha, inshallah, we'll go through the next 11 points quickly, inshallah. And that to be explained in some details later. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us benefit from what we heard and to purify our hearts and ينفعنا بما علمنا سبحانه وتعالى. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وصحبه وسلم.